So I'm going to pick up where I left off on part 2. This is part 3 of what muscles really need. How do we feed muscles in a way that promotes lean muscle growth and prevents lean muscle loss? And we've covered quite a bit of ground in parts 1 and 2. And so now I'm going to continue on from part 2, and we're going to sort of back up what building muscle actually requires. You ready? Resistance training. That's what building muscle requires. You need enough calories, lots of carbs, because if you're not consuming enough carbs, you're going to lose protein. We talked about this in parts 1 and 2. If you haven't watched those, please watch those. But we build muscle in the gym or at home, depending on where you're working out. But it requires work to build muscle. You can eat all the chicken you want, all the steak you want, all the eggs you want, and that will not build muscle. You need to be working out. You can do a low load, high volume training, which is seen to be better than a high load, low volume resistance activity. And of course, if you're a power lifter, you're going to be doing the high load, low volume, which means very low reps, very high load. So it depends on your goals, on how you're going to train. But know that resistance work is required for muscles to get bigger, to hypertrophy, to get stronger. It's required. And of course, if you're very sedentary and you're not doing any exercise or any type of resistance work, you're losing muscle mass and you're losing it fairly quickly. And so you're going to end up struggling to go up and down stairs, get in and out of a car, get something out of the trunk of the car, lift a grandchild, garden, hike. As those muscles atrophy, shrink, weaken because of a lack of resistance training, a lack of hard work. And you don't have to spend 4 hours in the gym. You can do a basic workout, as little as 30 minutes and build some muscle. It depends on how smart you're working out. But it also does depend on having enough calories. If you're not taking in enough calories, I don't care how hard you work out, you're not going to be building muscle because you need the calories to do that. But it's not protein, it's calories. So you've got to have enough calorie intake, including that needed for the increased activity level. So if you're consuming the same number of calories and you start working out with a lot of resistance, now, yes, if you've got some weight you're wanting to lose, you've got some fat that you want to lose from your body, you're going to end up leaner. You're going to end up looking better. You might even get stronger. Those muscles will improve. But over time, you're going to get this effect where your body says, "Oh, we need more calories now because we don't really have any fat storage anymore." So every person is unique like a fingerprint. We can't. A lot of the times, people are looking for this magic answer, this magic one-word answer. What's the best exercise I can do? What's the best workout I can do? And they just want those simple answers. And I'm not trying to make things sound like everything has to be complicated. But every person is unique like a fingerprint. And what's right for you may be completely wrong for one of your family members, or it may be right. It really depends on your goals. It depends on your current level of fitness, your current level of health, your current abilities, and a big part of it is your goals. So we really need to understand all of this. But when it comes to food and building muscle, it's the same for everyone. There is no difference. You need to have enough calories. You need to be consuming enough carbohydrates. You need to make sure you increase your carb intake when you want to build muscle so that you're not using your protein for fuel. And then you need to be the protein you're intaking, and I'm talking protein that can be plant protein. I'm not speaking the invisible word animal protein, which whenever people say protein, they're almost always thinking animal protein. We're talking dietary protein here of any source. You need to distribute that throughout the day, but you only need 10% of your calories to be coming from protein. And you can be a whole food, plant-based, complete vegan, you don't need to be vegan, but if you are vegan, and I say that because 10% of your calories or less from animal foods is what the data shows is the best if you don't want to be vegan. But if you happen to be vegan, you're usually, because of the plants you're consuming, as long as you're getting a varied diet, you're getting about 15% of your calories from protein, just from plants. So, and you only need 10%. So there's no deficit going on in that area. So you really do want your protein intake to not be just before a workout or just after a workout. It's throughout the day, pretty much every meal that you're consuming. And again, only 10%. You don't need 3 steaks a day. Now, the carb and protein after exercise, you really want to avoid consuming protein alone after exercise, since carbs are needed to replenish the glycogen stores. And it's been shown in the data that delayed onset muscle soreness is actually reduced better, quicker with carbs after a workout. Now, the quality of the protein. And we're going to talk about some things here. It's determined by assessing its amino acid composition, what's going on in the protein, how digestible is it, how bioavailable is it, will the body absorb what's in there. Now, all proteins are made of amino acids, whether it's a plant protein or an animal protein. There are essential amino acids that can't be made by the body. That's why it's called essential. You have to consume it. You have to eat it. There are non-essential amino acids that can be made by the body. Now, there are complete proteins and incomplete proteins, and this is where the misunderstanding about the need to consume animal foods comes in, because animal foods are considered complete proteins and plants are considered incomplete proteins. So we think of them as superior and inferior. Complete proteins contain all essential amino acids, and incomplete proteins do not contain all essential amino acids. Now, we have learned that you don't have to get all the amino acids in the same meal at the same time. Your body does well on a nice varied plant-based diet, and you'll get all you need. But I'm showing you here some complete proteins aside from animal foods. Soy, quinoa, chia, buckwheat, kelp, and flax are complete proteins. Kind of good to know, don't you think? So when we look at essential amino acids, I've listed them here. I'm not going to read this list to you. Non-essential amino acids, those are listed here as well. Now, these are the ones that our body can make. These are the ones we need to consume. So what'll happen is, a lot of the supplement industries, a lot of well-meaning but misinformed people will tell you, oh, you need to take this supplement. You need to get more methionine, or you need to get more lysine, or you need to get more of this, or the threonine and all of these neens. You got to get more of them, so you got to supplement them. Well, your body's pretty stinking smart. Your body will take what it needs from the foods that you consume, and it will eliminate what it doesn't need. Your body knows what to do with food. When you start consuming supplements and you get massive amounts of things, your body doesn't know what to do with that. And a lot of the times it's expensive waste. Your body's just eliminating it as quickly as possible if it doesn't cause harm in the meantime to metabolize and eliminate from the body. Now, there's different forms of protein that people will ingest to increase their protein intake because they've been told they need to, even though it's not true. One of 2 major milk proteins. You've got the liquid remaining after the milk is curdled and strained. So this is the whey protein. It's one of the 2 major milk proteins. You've got whey protein and you've got casein. So here's whey protein, and the milk gets curdled, it gets strained, and this is the liquid remaining. Now, there's 3 options. It can be used to make a whey protein powder, a whey protein concentrate, or a whey protein isolate. Now, each will have a different amount of protein, as you can see here, and the benefits that are supposed to be concentrated branched chain amino acids, these particular amino acids, are thought to be important in muscle protein synthesis. So this is why these are promoted. This is why these are marketed. These are why these are taken and recommended by so many people. The whey protein powder has 11 to 15% protein. The concentrate 25 up to 89% protein, and then the isolate is 90%. So this tends to be the most popular. However, it is the most what's the word I'm looking for? It's not natural. Let's put it that way. It's really not something that your body would ever ingest in the real world, if not for factories and people making these foods. Now, looking at casein, this is about 70 to 80% of the milk protein. It does exist in the micelle, in the stomach micelle. It's broken down and casein is released. So it is something that you will find if you go to buy a cheese. It might say non-dairy because it's not made from milk. It might be made from cow's milk. It might be made from plant milk. It's not cow's milk or goat's milk or sheep's milk. However, a lot of the times these non-dairy cheeses will use casein or whey protein in them. And so it's not vegan. So you need to look at the labels and make sure. Now, if it says vegan, then you know it is. Should be. But just to let you know, if you're trying to stay away from these foods, you need to look at the labels because sometimes they'll put casein or whey protein in them, even though it's not considered a cow dairy product. But these are the things that are used and recommended and all of that. Now we've got soy. So now obviously this is plant. It is the most commonly plant protein that's used is soy protein. It does have a very high concentration of the branched chain amino acids, and there are 3 different ways it's utilized: as a flour, as a protein concentrate, and as an isolate. And as you can see, the isolates have the highest protein in them, but they are also the most processed. So not necessarily something natural that you would want to be ingesting on a regular basis. Higher processed foods, they go through a lot of processes that are less than ideal. And if you look into the research of how they're done, you may not want to put that in your mouth. Now, I will tell you that protein deficiency, there has never been a diagnosis, and this is the medical term for protein deficiency, hypoproteinemia or cachexia, which is a real loss of weight. I mean, this is someone who's practically a bone mass with skin without an underlying disease process. So in an otherwise healthy person, there's never been a diagnosis of protein deficiency, ever. And then there's another term, kwashiorkor, and that's extreme poverty and lack of food. That's those pictures that just make you want to cry when you see the children who don't have enough food. That's not a protein deficiency that happens because they're not consuming 3 steaks a day or getting enough protein in their diet. They literally don't have enough food. So if you're getting enough calories, you're getting enough protein. Unless you're living on pure sugar. Now you're not getting any protein. But hopefully you get what I'm saying. Very important. Now, I do want to talk some about hydration because we were talking about what muscles really need. And a lot of the times, a lot of people in our world are dehydrated. They're not consuming enough water. So I wanted to talk about water and specifically how it relates to muscles. Now, it is really important for athletes to remain hydrated in order to perform. Dehydration it can be a very dangerous state. A lot of athletes have ended up in a lot of trouble because of dehydration. There's a tremendous amount of heat, water, and sodium lost through sweat evaporation. This doesn't mean you have to take salt pills. You need to drink water. Most athletes experience dehydration and a drop in blood volume while training and competing. It is a regular thing. It happens even when fluids are readily available because they're kind of not drinking them. Consequences range from fatigue to some life-threatening issues like heat stroke. So very important to be well hydrated when you're exercising, when you're working out, when your goal is to build muscle. Now, this doesn't mean you've got to chug down 32 ounces of water before you go to the gym. This means you want to be hydrating regularly throughout the day, just like the protein intake. It needs to be consistent throughout the day. I always tell people, set your phone, every 20, 30 minutes to go off to remind you, especially if you're sedentary, to get up and do some back bends and some squats and drink some water. Remind you throughout the day. Get an app on your phone to remind you to drink water. But when it comes to working out, you need to increase your water intake because muscles are 75% water when they're well hydrated. I know I've worked with people who have literally had pain, muscle spasms, because they're dehydrated. They're not consuming enough water. And muscles will scream for water. They will spasm if you don't have enough water. And so you can see here, almost 60% of the average person's weight is water. Average. So, 60% for males, 50% for females. It's less for people who are carrying excess weight because fat tissue has no water in it. Fat tissue is completely without water. So, because it's fat. So, it doesn't have any water in it. So, that's why someone who's carrying a lot of excess weight, overall, their average of water weight is less. So, this is why I recommend that people who are carrying excess weight literally increase their water intake. Not only will it help them to metabolize fats, but there's a lot of things that can really improve and help people who are carrying excess weight if they're consuming enough water. And then athletes, look at this. 70% of an athlete's water weight of an athlete is water weight. And that's because muscles, they're going to technically, they're going to have a lot more muscle mass. Your typical athlete has a lot more muscle mass than other body tissue. And so because muscles are 75% water, athletes are going to have more water weight. So it's really important that you're hydrated. Very important. And you can see even bones are 32% water. And I'm sorry, I did say fat had no water. It's only 10% water. I misspoke. I apologize. But very, very low, which is why people carrying excess weight. And then blood, 93% water. So if you are dehydrated, you're going to have lower blood volume, which is not good on a cellular level, as well as other things. So water is the main component of blood, which you just saw. It delivers oxygen, nutrients, hormones, and other substances to the cells. It also removes metabolic waste from the cells. Water serves to a protective function. It cushions the spinal cord and brain from injury due to impact. It helps to regulate temperature. And water and electrolytes involved in this thing called osmotic pressure regulates the fluid inside and outside the cells. So it's really important that you are well hydrated. And a lot of people will tell me, "Oh, but I'm not thirsty. Oh, I'm just not thirsty. Why would I drink water if I'm not thirsty? I should only drink when I'm thirsty." Well, the thirst mechanism may not be adequate for regulating water intake during exercise, especially because people often continue to exercise in a dehydrated state because they don't get thirsty. And this can result in decreased blood flow to the muscles, reduced endurance, more fatigue, diminishing returns for exercise. And you only need to lose 2% of fluid to cause these issues. That's not that much. Now, the factors that affect fluid intake, the two most important are thirst and taste. And insufficient water intake is often due to a lack of thirst sensation. And then drinking can be a result of habit or driven by desire for warm or cold fluids. Drinking other fluids are often driven by taste. A lot of people tell me, "Oh, I just don't like water. I don't like the taste of water." I think what they mean is they don't like the lack of taste of water. So they always, "Well, can I put something in it if I have to drink it?" Significant water loss is needed before activating the thirst sensation. Remember, only 2% fluid loss can cause these issues. And that's not going to make you thirsty. Thirst is much less sensitive to the loss of blood volume due to dehydration. You need to have a 10% loss sometimes before you get thirsty. So don't wait until you're thirsty to drink water. Make sure you're drinking water. And I want to finish with this. So many people think they need all that animal protein. These are vegan bodybuilders who won 32 medals at the 2017 Fit Games. There's no lack of muscle on these people. They didn't need 3 steaks a day. They did need enough calories and a lot of carbs. So I really hope you've enjoyed this 3-part series, and go ahead and subscribe if you find this interesting. I know this was very different from my typical training videos, but so many questions come up about this. So many people, as they age, are concerned. They're told, oh, you're older, you need more protein. So much of that is just so not true. And because people hear other people say it, the more often you hear something that it's spoken, whether it's true or not, you just believe it's true, even if it's not, because everybody's saying it, but it's not. So I really hope that this helps you. Hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I will see you next time.